Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of DK Tour Fishing. Today I have something that is new and exciting for me in my life that I want to present to you that is also new and exciting relative across the board here in the world for everybody. It is the Daiwa Zillion SV. This is the US sold version and it is made in Thailand. This is not the JDM version. If it was the JDM version, we would be seeing a 1000 on the box and not a 100. This is a video that I wanted to get out to you guys for some time now, but I just did not want to buy the JDM version Zillion. So here it is. This is the US sold version, and I'm putting it up against the absolute most closest reel that I could compare to it that is new to me in my life, and it's this Daiwa Tatula 2020 SV. This thing right here, I had just picked one up because I had a Garmin rebate for $200 from my live scope, from my Panoptics, and this reel happens to be $200. So I said, you know what? Let me give this thing a try. And out of nowhere, they've started multiplying themselves. They've made their way up into my bedroom, onto my card table, down into my boat, and into my rod locker, and they have just started multiplying themselves. So I'm going to explain to you guys the reason why I really like this reel, but it's not only about why I like the reel. The point of this video here is all about the differences and the similarities that I'm going to share with you guys between the Daiwa Tatula 2020 and the 2021 Daiwa Zillion SV. Very similar reels, guys. Very similar reels. This one's $350. This one is $200. The Daiwa Zillion, we are going to do an unboxing. I also have a brand new Tatula that I could unbox for you guys. I'm going to give you guys a very intellectual outlook on the technology that Daiwa has implemented into their reels here, guys. It's a little confusing to understand right off the jump, so I went out of my way to do some extensive research, and I also have experience here, a few weeks of experience with these Tatulas, and I've caught several fish on them, guys. Now here you have on the box for the Zillion, there's a lot of fancy things. I mean, it's not just Daiwa. Everybody does it. Shimano has all their names for all their different technologies. And then if you want to understand what's going on in the world, you have to put in some dirty work and you have to pretty much decode the marketing that they use into something that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys. I have already integrated all the BS and I'm going to explain to you guys what the technology is that's incorporated into these reels, because look at that. It's very similar. But on this box, you have Hyperdrive written on it. Look, Hyperdrive Digi Gear. They have Digi this and Digi that. I'm going to explain this stuff to you guys. The differences, the similarities, and why these SV reels are my new favorite reels, hands down. Just want to go right off and say this is not a biased review. This is still an unbiased review you guys are getting from me. I wouldn't give it to you guys any other way. You guys seen any other reel videos that I've done, this table stacks up to the top with Shimano reels. I love Shimano reels, but look, I have a new leaf I'm turning over here, and I want to share it with you guys. Alright guys, so make sure you watch this whole video because I'm going to take this reel, I'm going to spool it up, and I'm going to put them to a cast test against one another. So we're going to see which one kind of casts further, and I think we'll do a test for accuracy or controllability as well. So stay tuned for that. We're going to cover all the specifications, the technology incorporated into these reels. We're going to bust the scale out here, and we are going to throw things on the scale. We're going to get precise here, guys. Let's figure this out. Before we go any further, let's unbox this beautiful reel and let me show you guys what I mean. Comes in a plastic wrap, just like the Tatulas do. No foam or protection in the box. Real schematic right there. Okay. Wow. This thing is nice. right off the bat, the first thing I want to do is check and see how tight everything might be. And this reel doesn't seem to clink whatsoever. I'm huge when it comes to that type of thing. I hate it when there's play in reels. So this thing is very together, feeling that I can tell just right away. Wow, what a beautiful reel, guys. I'm going to show you guys all about this reel. But first, let's just unbox this Tatula for you guys. I know that I already had a couple in your face before, but those have been used in muddy, salty, brackish water. And there you have it. Another Daiwa Tatula SV. Really, really good looking reel. And I'm going to tell you guys what I love about it and what I don't like about it. As far as comparing it to what I just did with the Zillion, the handle, very tight and together, no play. I love that. I absolutely love that. The spool, yeah, the spool has a lot of play in it. All the Tatulas seem to have a lot of play in their spools. I know there is a zero adjuster here. You're not supposed to really adjust it, but seems to be like a lot of people adjust it. If you guys adjust your zero adjuster, I'd love to know it. You know, leave it in the comments. Do you adjust your zero adjuster? A lot of people do. But regardless, there you go, guys. There's your SVs right there. There's your Tatula SV and there's your Zillion SV. The Tatula is coming in at 6.8 ounces, and the Zillion here, we're coming in at a 6.6 ounces. So we're seeing a very minuscule weight difference, guys. Like I said, Daiwa has them both at the same weight written down in black and white, but my scale does not lie. Let's take the spools out and let's weigh the spools as well. All right, we have the spool on the Tatula coming in at 0.46 ounces, and the spool on the Zillion coming in at 4.7 ounces. So we actually have a little bit heavier of a spool on the Zillion, which actually I was expecting the Zillion spool to be a little bit lighter, but you really can't call that type of stuff. Let's just see the difference here, though. You see the Tatula spool has a lower profile in there. This one is beefed up a little bit more on the Zillion, but the biggest noticeable difference right off the bat is there's no bar here going into the actual reel on the Zillion. Nothing's there. So you know, it's attached to the spool on the Tatula, and it's not attached on the Zillion. Both SV technology. Basically, SV technology, you're talking about centrifugal brakes as well as magnetic brakes that are working in conjunction with one another in synchronization to create a reel that's going to give you a buttery smooth type of cast, good for casting light lures. But SV, it actually stands for stress-free versatile. And I'll tell you guys right off the bat, you know, these Tatulas here, this is probably my favorite reel right now for throwing a crankbait. And it's because crankbait's a very light lure, especially throwing it in the wind. And I don't even have to thumb the spool, guys, when the crankbait hits the water most of the time. I mean, what happens is the velocity from your cast will send out this ring. It will actually the velocity rather will send this out from the gravity, from the velocity. It will send this out, and once this comes out to a certain extent, it will then come to the side plate, which has magnetic rings inside it. Now, this metal here is going to come into this magnetic field as your lure picks up at its highest velocity. It's going to come into this magnetic field, and that magnetic field is going to give a nice cushioned slow on this on your spool. It's going to slow it down so beautifully. How these like I said, how the centrifugal and the magnetic brakes work in conjunction with one another here. It is absolutely amazing. So that's my quick explanation on SV technology, and the SV technology incorporated into the Zillion is pretty much the same exact thing. One thing that I do notice about this Zillion spool opposed to the Tatula spool, you have these washers here. There's a washer right here behind the bearing, and there's also this, like, I don't know if you want to call it a flange or a bushing, but there's this piece of rubberish type of material that is on the other side of this bearing as well. This seems to be an intelligent design here because in the Tatula, as I mentioned before, it has a lot of side-to-side click and play in the reel, and for the Zillion, mind you, I know I'm sure you could adjust that zero adjuster, but for the Zillion, you have, this nice washer here, and you have this material that I believe it's going to keep this spool in place better and give you a more refined cushion feeling there. And that accompanied by a couple of other things with this Zillion right here that really make the extra mile to be more refined and more smooth than the Tatula. See that SV spool right there? It also says SV spool on the Zillion, but on the Zillion it says booster system. It says G1 Duralumin. Now, I was saying before how they got a little bit wordy with the marketing here, and on the low, I think this is a really good reel, and I think that they're marketing a lot of the technology for the Zillion and making it sound like this is some new thing that just happened last night when it was already implemented into this reel last year, and a lot of people don't even know that. It's actually marked wrong on the internet on a lot of sites. They still have the 2017 Daiwa Tatula up, and the descriptions are mixed matched, and it's really all screwed up. So I've been pulling my hair out to really get the accurate description of what's going on here. But nonetheless, this 2020 Tatula, it has a lot of the same technology as the Metanium. So this SV Boost Duralumin, I looked it up. The Duralumin is this spool is also made of Duralumin. So they don't really market this spool, Duralumin this, Duralumin that, but they put a G1 next to this Duralumin. They labeled it like that. So, it looks good that way, but it's the same Duralumin that this spool is made out of. The Boost, that my research leads me to understand that the reason why this is a SV Boost and this is a SV, as I explained to you guys how the SV works and the velocity sends out the ring into the magnetic field, the SV Boost, they're saying that there is a separate spring component that aids to the smoothness and the transition of the centrifugal into the magnetic brake transition, if you will, as you're casting. I guess look at it as like a car shifting into third gear nice and smoothly, and with that spring being a separate component, it's going to shift into third gear much smoother. You're not even supposed to feel it, but I don't really think that something like that would even be a noticeable difference to a human in the first place. But it's okay. I'm not really upset about it because they, these little tiny things that they did to the Zillion to really aid to its refinement. Just like you've seen, this one has a bigger diameter spool because this one is 34 millimeters. This one is 32 millimeters. This is cool, guys. This reminds me of my saltwater days, but check it out. We got an audible, clicker right here. That's right there in the gear. And when your drag spins, you're going to hear a click. You're not going to hear that with this, which you're already used to from your other reels. So I'm going to probably freak out when I hear this click, and I'm going to think that my reel's broken until I get used to it. So that's something I have to get used to. Not really mad about it, but what I am mad about, guys, is the drag star that they put on the Tatula here, because it's made out of plastic. And that is not for me. guys. I'll tell you straight up. And I've done nothing but give you guys really, really, really awesome reviews and about this reel since I've fished it already. Haven't fished this yet. But this drag star being plastic, disgusting. I mean, I'm sorry. I was trying not to be too critical, but that's the word I'm going to use because I'm really upset about that. I'm just going to show you guys real quick. I just want to show you guys real quick. Here's one of my, I have a bunch of these reels. These was my, I go through phases. This was my favorite reel at one point. Still an awesome reel. This is the 13 Fishing Concept C. 20 pounds of drag, and it has a metal drag washer. Now, the drag washer being metal is not going to help you get the fish in the boat. It's not like that, but it's just, it's just like, come on, guys. Like, drag is power, and we're going to associate a plastic drag star with power. That doesn't really make sense to me. But hey, of course there's going to be intellectual people who comment on this video, who are watching this video, who say it doesn't matter, it's just a drag star, but it's a little ironic that the powerful, it's like a power system of your reel, and it's made of plastic. So what they did was, with the Zillion, they made it out of a different substrate, or I don't know if you can even call it a substrate, because it is made out of Zaion, Z-A-I-O-N. I'm sure a lot of Daiwa people are very familiar with this material, with this composite type of, I don't know what it is. It feels like plastic to me, to be honest with you guys, but it feels like a nicer plastic than the one that's on the SV over there. But it looks like the Trek in my deck outside, that composite plastic in my deck outside. That's what it looks like. So, not the same quality. I mean, you know what? Maybe this is good material. I don't know. But after this whole ordeal right here, I'm going to say that, whatever. Spend too much time talking about that. So, moving on. Let's get back to talking about this hyperdrive stuff, guys. Hyperdrive design. What does that mean with these digis? The Digi Gear, right? We have brass gears in both of these reels, guys. This is the reason why I went with the Zillion 100, which is the made in Thailand, the US version of this reel. I did not buy the JDM version, the 1000. If you will. A little confused on why Zillion, it's called a 1000 because it's a 100 size reel. They're both 100 size reels. So the JDM version was made with an aluminum gearing, and that's not ideal for longevity, durability, and for power, So they did the right thing. They put a brass gear in the Zillion. They want to market it very heavily that there's a brass gear in here. They don't market it at all that there's a brass gear in the SV. They don't market it whatsoever. You don't really know that there's a brass gear in this reel. They don't go out of their way to tell you about it, but they do go out of their way to tell you about it here. So, I mean, it's just another reason why you're pretty much getting a bang for your buck with this reel. I think on the low, it has a lot of the awesome technology that the Zillion has. But the Zillion, once again, it really went above and beyond here because they incorporated their Digi Gear technology. And I'm going to show you guys a graph. Well, I'm going to show you guys a representation right now of what Digi Gear looks like. You see that? Yep, it's the teeth in the gear. What I'm going to be able to relate it to, for something that I'm familiar with, for what I know, is Shimano's micro module gear system. That was Shimano's way of coming up with stronger teeth that were smoother, and this is Daiwa's way of coming up with their own new style of new shape in their gear teeth, which is not similar to really like Shimano's shape of their cuts in their gears that I explained going back in a previous video. I'll leave the link for that too, about their cold water forging that they do to their aluminum. But this is Zillion's way that they're doing it, and they're making more rigid gears that are supposed to be stronger but also aid to a more smooth effect. So that adds to the refinement, the new cut in the gears there. New gearing. A new gearing track. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, they're both brass. That seems to be a big thing now when you're purchasing reels. Reel companies don't tell you what their gears are made out of, but just frame of mind, guys. It's good to know that what your gears are made out of, and you can also swap gears out to brass gears if you're not happy with the aluminum ones in your reels. And I think that's what I'm going to end up doing with a lot of my Corrado DCs, actually, is changing to brass gears. All right, now as far as hyperdrive design tech, we just covered the Digi Gear, and also wanted to show you guys the hyperdrive double support. I'm going to show you guys another representation right here. Alright guys, what we're looking at in this picture here, I'm giving you a representation, this is a web picture I got off the internet, of the hyperdrive double support. As you can see, that's your gear right there. We just talked about the hyperdrive Digi Gear, that special cut in the gear, aiding to a more smoother and stronger connection in your reel. Now that's accompanied by two bearings on each side of it, as you can see in the picture. Just in case those gears go to the side even at the slightest bit, there's going to be the smooth comfort of those bearings on the side of those gears that are going to aid to a nice smooth reeling effect there. So I really think it's the hyperdrive Digi Gear in conjunction with the hyperdrive double support that really might add to a more smooth feeling on this reel. About to go find out myself, but those seem to be two key things that really stand out for me with the Zillion. Your hyper armed housing, they're just referring to its aluminum framing. That's the same thing that's going on in this reel, guys. You have aluminum framing. The only difference is they're saying that the Zillion here has an aluminum side plate as well as the side plate holder, but which I've taken both of these apart, and that's what they're saying. They're saying that this thing's made out of aluminum. This is the side plate, and I don't know. I can chew on this thing, and it feels like plastic, but whatever. They said it's aluminum, so it's aluminum, and that's what it is. Now, the fourth feature of the hyperdrive design technology is the hyper tough clutch. Now, they are saying that they went out of their way to make a more durable clutch bar right here, because they're saying that the clutch is something that commonly has to be maintained and fixed on reels for people. And well, I'm going to give you my idea about that. I own dozens of baitcasters, and I have for years now, and I've only had one or two reels have a clutch bar go out, and they were not Shimano's or Daiwas. But anyway, whatever. I'm not mad about some extra durability as long as this thing's not harder for me to click, because I wouldn't like that. But it feels the same. So there you go. A lot of hyper talk, a lot of hyper vocabulary, but that's your hypers broken down in a nutshell. You have your hyper gear, you have your double support with those bearings, you have your hyper armed housing, and you have your hyper tough clutch. Other mentions, guys, we have silver end caps on the Zillion right here, and we don't have them on the Tatula, but we do have this silver component right here that holds your handle on there, and it is not silver on here. Here we have a silver matte type of finish. I don't know if you want to call it matte. They're saying that this is a black matte finish, and I can understand how they're saying that, but I also see a gloss on both of these reels, and this isn't really black. I mean, the box is pretty much black. The reel is kind of like black, but also charcoal with a really weird tiny tint of blue. Maybe I'm colorblind, but it's a nice looking reel regardless. Now, what else, guys? We have our line diameter ratings here. For fluorocarbon, you're going to be able to put 90 meters, which is 100 yards on this spool right here, of 14-pound test. Braid, we're going to be able to put 90 meters, which is 100 yards of 30-pound test. And guess what, guys? It's the same exact thing for both of these reels. So you see how these things are like cousins here, very close cousins. The spool sizes, they're a little bit different. They're even different in weight, actually. But in the end, these reels actually weigh out to be the same exact thing, almost. And they actually have the same exact line capacity, which is wild. Well, I don't know. I say it's wild, but I seem to be so fascinated about the smallest things on reels because I am a bait caster and spinning reel enthusiast. So if you're with me, guys, please give me a thumbs up on this video. I put a lot of work into breaking this stuff down for you. And if you don't like this video, don't give me a thumbs down, but please comment on what you guys feel like you would want to see in future videos. Anything I might have missed? Let's see. I don't know. We covered a lot. They both have 11 pounds of drag, which they call the UTD. It's the ultimate tournament drag. It sounds really fancy. 11 pounds is enough for bass fishing. Like I said, I'm used to a lot of my reels having 20 pounds of drag on them, but that's fine. Good enough for me, you know, especially since it's so ultimate and, you know, it's rated for tournaments, but good enough for me, guys. So let's take these things out. Let's cast them. I'm going to give you guys my conclusion when we come back inside after we get some numbers going. Well, a little bit of a surprise that we have here. I have my rain gear on. It is raining out. This is actually good for our controlled experiment, the rain being a variable here, because something I didn't mention to you guys about the SV technology. Well, a lot of my other bait casters, they're relying on friction to stop and slow down their lures, your lures when you cast them. And the SV technology here, it is not relying on friction in your braking system. Like I explained before, it's the velocity and the magnetic on the inner of the spool that work in conjunction with one another. So this rain right here, it shouldn't really play an effect. So I think that's going to be an extra nice touch on testing our reels out. The rain should play a very minimal effect if Daiwa can hold up to what they said, and these reels really are not affected by the rain. Just to bring you guys up to speed here, since this is a controlled experiment, I want to make sure everything is identical and the same. We have nothing going on here that is different. We have the same exact blanks. This is a Shimano Corrado 7.2 medium heavy. I have multiple of these blanks. That's why I chose this setup right here. It all comes together and works. I don't want to use expensive fluoros, so I dug up some P-Line Fluoro Clear 12-pound test. I put the same exact amount of line on both of these reels, guys. Just measured it myself, and then I followed Daiwa's recommendations. I filled them up right to that line on the inner spool. That's supposed to be the line that you fill it to if you want to maximize your casting distance. So we're going to go with that. We're going to go with Daiwa's recommendation here. So everything is identical on these setups. We're going to be throwing here Super Spook Junior. It's nice and aerodynamic. It's not too heavy. It is a light lure, you know, it's the junior size, and we're going to see what kind of distance or what kind of accuracy we can get with this thing. I decided to leave the hooks on because, you know, when the lure hits the ground, we're going to be casting in grass. I want this to catch the grass. I don't want this to bounce all over the place. I want this experiment to be precise. So let's get to the field, guys. Let's get to the park. Let's finally get these things tested out. Then I'll give you my final conclusion on the whole thing, and I'll let you know, is the Daiwa Zillion worth the $150 extra? And it sure does look like a Metanium. I know I said Metanium earlier by mistake when I was talking quick, but it sure isn't a Metanium, guys. Let's go check it out. All right, guys, here we are. We are out here on a soccer field, actually, at the penalty kick line, and I have the blue top over there from that container, from that hamper. The blue top is 75 feet away from us. I have both of my rods here. They are nice and soaking wet. Let's see if we can hit that blue top from 75 yards away. Well, 75 feet away, guys. I'm sorry, 75 feet. And I'm gonna use the Tatula SV first. I'm gonna take 10 casts, and then I'm gonna do the same exact thing with the Zillion. So 75 feet away. Let's see what we can do. All right. It landed right there. All right, guys, that's 10 casts with the Daiwa Tatula SV here. I would say it did a pretty good job with controllability and accuracy here for
I mean, I don't know if you guys can see how wet it is out here, but it's very wet out. It's raining pretty good, and we have wind blowing to the left. That's why a lot of my casts actually went to the left of the hamper lid. I had to actually throw a little bit to the right to kind of line it up, but not bad, guys. Not bad at all for a completely saturated reel in the wind. All right, guys, here it goes with the Zillion. I think the rain's getting a little worse out here. Oh my goodness. Did that really just happen on the first cast, guys? Oh my God. Hopefully that's not like catching a fish on the first cast. Hopefully we can keep some type of consistency going on here. But that was awesome. Oh, hello. That one bounced from outside, from right here. I mean, what, 1 inch? 1 inch. Yeah, that hit it. That hit it dead on. Okay. I felt that one hit the corner. That one was in the bucket. All right, we got the Daiwa Tatula back in my hands now. Just gonna test these things for distance real quick. I'm gonna take 5 casts with each one. I'm not going to whip it as hard as I would whip a Shimano DC, but I am going to give it a nice cast. These reels like to be feathered, and the lure should just do its own thing. Okay, we went right past the halfway mark on the football field, and we spooled ourselves down to bare nothing there. I wasn't expecting this to happen, guys. Huh. If I don't thumb the spool, it's gonna spool itself every time. Amazing thing about these reels, they don't need any thumb on the spool. I mean, yeah, you know, if you're fishing against the wind and you're fishing a light lure, then yeah, they do, but other than that, all right, back to the Zillion. Boop, there's the spool. Let's go. Oh, yeah.
And we're back, and I'm warm and I'm dry. Finally, man, it was raw out there. We had some adverse weather conditions, without a doubt, but I think it added a really nice touch to this whole field test, to this whole experiment that we did, because one of the key elements that we were really expressing about this reel is its capabilities, its supreme control capabilities, control and accuracy. Those are areas where this SV concept here really shines a lot, and that's the reason why I fell in love with this Daiwa Tatula right here. So, you know, having those adverse conditions was a really good way to put this thing up to the challenge, if you will. So we got it done. We did our accuracy test, which I feel like came out really well, guys. Just to go over with you, we had that blue hamper lid. It was 75 feet away from us. It was 75 feet to the target. We were trying to put our half-ounce that Spook Junior that we were throwing, we were trying to put that half-ounce lure either on the target, or we were trying to put it within the radius of that target as close as we can come, measuring it in inches. So I have the 10 measurements right here for the Tatula on how far it came from the hamper lid, and I have the 10 measurements here in inches for the Zillion. And then I'm gonna add these 10 up, which I have already done. I have the averages right here, and then I'll divide them by 10. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me an average number. I'm going to be able to tell you on, you know, on a basis of me casting 10 times, the average of how far I came from that hamper lid with each reel. Okay, so For the Tatula, the first cast was 22 inches from the lid. The second cast, 14 inches. Third cast, 39 inches. Fourth cast, 48 inches. Fifth cast, 32 inches. Sixth cast, 40 inches. Seventh cast, 3 inches from the lid. Eighth cast, 15 inches from the lid. Ninth cast, 26 inches from the lid. 10th cast, 2 inches from the lid. You add that all up, it's 241 inches. Divided by 10, we have 24.1 inches, guys. So that's 2 feet. I was able to shoot that lure 2 feet within distance of that hamper lid, in the wind, in the rain, 75 feet away from myself. So I think that is really, really decent. I think that's really decent. I'm not so sure I would have been able to do that under those conditions with some of my other bait casters, especially being the reels being so saturated like that. Moving on to the Zillion, the first cast, we hit the bucket on the first cast. I think it bounced, I think it hit the edge of it. So we're gonna say 1 inch from the bucket. The second cast, 19 inches from the bucket. Third cast, 32 inches. Fourth cast, 36. 22. 1 inch, guys, from the bucket. 0, we hit the bucket right in the middle. 16 inches from the bucket. 18 inches from the bucket. 20 inches from the bucket. Add that up, that's 165 divided by 10 casts. That's 16.5. That's 16.5 inches from the bucket. Same deal, you know, out of those 10 casts, that's how far my lure came from that 75-foot away target. So 16.5 inches for the Zillion, 24.1 for the Daiwa Tatula SV. So the Zillion does win. The numbers are there, so I'm just going to say that. But I want to also say that they were both on point. They really were. I do have some more experience with the Tatula, but I feel like holding this Zillion, it's like I've already fished with this reel. But at the same time, now here we go. This thing is absolute butter, guys. I mean, it casts smoother. It retrieves smoother. It feels smoother. This doesn't feel rigid. It doesn't. The Daiwa Tatula doesn't feel rigid. But you can notice the modifications that they made on this reel from this technology. You can see all the similarities because this reel performs pretty much identically, but I can notice in my hands, if I pay attention, the difference from the Zillion from the SV. It's the best I can say. It's really hard to put my finger on it because they're very, very similar. So that being said, we did our distance test. The distance test, I shot that thing out as far as I could pretty much. I aimed it up this way I can get a good trajectory in the air, and I shot that thing out as straight as I could. You know, on a distance cast like that in the wind, you're bound to have the wind move your lure to some degree, but I was trying to compensate for the wind and line it up correctly. I went ahead and I measured the distance casts. As you guys seen, we went right down to the bare spool on this, and honestly, if there was more line on the spool, yeah, we would have been able to cast further, but I measured it up, guys. It was 135 feet where we maxed out right there. To be honest with you, I didn't notice any difference in the distance department. Once you start casting over 135 feet in distance, you're not going to need to do that to catch a bass, guys. You know, the only time you're going to need to cast over 140 feet is to win a distance casting contest, pretty much. So, let's just say they both passed in that department. And of course, it all reduces down to price tag. In a nutshell, that's what it all reduces down to. We pretty much went over everything else. So what is it going to be? Which one wins, right? Well, I'm not going to give you guys a winner here. I'm going to tell you, though. This one's $200, and this one is worth $200. This one is $350. This one is worth $350. They both match their price tag value. They both exceed their price tag value in my opinion, because I've never fished a reel that could perform this way that only costs $200, and I've never fished a reel that could perform this way for $350. So they already have me in that department, but I'm going to tell you guys straight off the bat here, I have a lot of rods in my rod locker, and I'm a tournament angler, so I thrive off consistency. I'm pretty much, this is where I'm at right now, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to accommodate my fishing, my setups, my arsenal with $200 reels that have phenomenal bang for your buck performance than $350 reels. Now, of course, if I had a ton of extra money and it didn't bother me whatsoever, I would definitely buy these reels. I would definitely buy them. So if you have the extra money, then yeah, buy it. I'm even just saying that confidently. I fished reels that cost more than this reel, and I've ended up selling them, most of them. So, that being said, this reel is more refined. It's smoother. It has a smoother castability. It has a smoother retrieve. It doesn't necessarily outcast this reel with distance, from what I've seen. But of course, if you were to do this test with very light lure, a very light crankbait on crankbait rods, then, that's where you might be able to see where the Zillion is able to shine there. It may possibly have better abilities to throw light lures, but that is what this reel is known for at this point. So you have the same technology being applied in both of these reels. Of course, this reel right here, your Zillion, the technology has been modified to some small degrees in little areas that where when it all comes together, it pulls together a little bit heavier of a price tag. But, if you want to go for quality, you go for this one. If you want to go for bang for your buck quality, you go for this one. And that's pretty much the best I can do. That's the best way I can put it. They both passed the test, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to be purchasing more Daiwa Tatulas. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. This is not my last Zillion. I like this reel. I think I like this reel more than this one. There's no reason why I shouldn't, other than the fact that I've already caught giants on this reel. Video link in the description. Anyway, I hope you guys got something out of this. Really put some effort into doing this for you guys, so I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe to DK Tour Fishing. I'll see you guys real soon. Have a good night.